Hey folks, Dr. Mike here with a quick video tutorial on race day endurance nutrition. So you've read and probably understood what's considered to be a textbook nutrition plan for what to eat on race day. Things come to mind like eating 300 to 400 calories about 3 to 4 hours before your event, topping off your glycogen stores with some fast digesting carbs 30 to 60 minutes before starting, consuming 200 to 300 calories of carbs or maybe carbs with protein per hour during exercise of long duration, and immediately refueling after exercise. You may also think about drinking fluids to hydrate properly, and the addition of caffeine and other supplements that have been shown to support optimal endurance performance. And we can't forget the most common mantra of sports nutrition textbooks, which is don't try anything new on race day. Another aspect of gearing up for a long endurance race, of course, is how to manage your body weight and your body composition in order to be as fast as possible on race day, or in my case, just to finish with a little bit less pain. But let's face it, when observing elite endurance athletes, they have a completely different physique than elite power athletes or sprint type athletes. In any case, the question arises is what nutritional approach might help to lose weight but maintain muscle mass and power? Now, I've coached some high-level endurance athletes with endurance-based evidence for nutrition and supplement strategies. But I had never competed in a triathlon that was longer than an Olympic distance before. So it's time to practice what I preach. In this tutorial, I'll put the theory to test by signing up for a 70.3 Ironman and eating according to protocol in order to see how the textbook recommendations matched my actual needs on a hot and humid race day in May. I'll also detail my body composition changes that occurred over the training period and my strategy to lose weight but maintain muscle mass. Lastly, we'll find out what worked, what did not, and what nutritional changes I will make if I try this again. My last race before deciding on the 70.3, I weighed in at 197 pounds and 15% body fat. While this is not bad, it was certainly on the heavier side for endurance athletes. My 6-month plan to get in shape for this race would include a goal of racing at 180 pounds and trying to maintain my muscle mass if at all possible. Research shows that long endurance exercise typically will reduce body weight. However, this loss comes from both fat and muscle mass. I was determined to keep on my muscle mass if at all possible. I used some evidence-based nutrition and exercise approaches that absolutely helped me to optimize my body composition. These included 1. Maintaining a high protein intake, over 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. 2. Supplementing with creatine and beta-alanine. 3. Maximizing my workouts by always having a meal or nutrition shake immediately post-workout. And 4. Including resistance training 2 times per week for the duration of the training period. While these supplements may not be for everyone, I chose them because of the support that they have in the medical research journals, and it worked well to get me ready for the race weekend. This approach led me to going from 197 pounds and 15% fat to 180.5 pounds, or right around there, and 10% fat. This part is best because with the research-backed plan, I only lost 0.5 kilograms, which is equivalent to 1.1 pounds of muscle, and the other 16 pounds that I lost were fat. I arrived at the race venue in Haines City, Florida 2 nights before race day. On the afternoon before the race, I made sure to check in with my body to see how things were doing. I did a very slow 10-minute bike ride and a 10-minute walk, and all signs were good. On this day, my hydration strategy was to drink water regularly and have a few typical carbohydrate electrolyte drinks to prep for the race. The Ironman event served up Powerade Ironman, so I had 2 12-ounce bottles of that while checking in before the race. That night, we hit up Caraba's restaurant where I was in search of a meal that would be sure to settle well. I opted for some pasta that was plain, with grilled chicken and vegetables, and avoided any heavy creams or Alfredo types of sauces so that the nutrient absorption would not be delayed. I was in bed by 10:15 p.m. I was warned about the lack of sleep the night before a race, and the advice was spot on. I think a total of 2 hours was all that I got that night. In fact, many people claim that the sleep you get 2 nights before the race is where you can actually maximize your rest. 3:40 a.m. came early, so I snoozed for 11 minutes. So early, but needed time to get up and eat. This was the tricky part, a part of why triathletes often call nutrition the fourth event of a triathlon. My wave of the race was scheduled to take off at 7:40 a.m., but I needed to be out of transition by 6 a.m. So after 6 a.m., you had to be sure you had everything you needed for the swim portion of the race and take along any nutrition that you wanted to consume while waiting around 100 minutes until taking off. After months of training physically and practicing my nutrition plan, I did not want to mess up the timing of my food and start out on the wrong foot. I took down some oatmeal, peanut butter, and a banana around 4:15 a.m. And then I mixed all of my water bottles that I would need for the race day. I went with a well-known product called Accelerate. I chose this option because of the research that has documented that a 3 to 4 to 1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein is optimal for long-distance events. Accelerate has this mixture and something that I knew would taste okay and would not upset my stomach. That's a key tenet to any nutrition plan. The transition area opened at 4:30 a.m., so we had to go ahead and get moving. We were all set up in transition about 5:45 a.m., which gave me some time. Actually, it felt like too much time to visualize my race strategies, use the restroom, another key tenet to the race day plan, and fuel again before my wave began at 7:40. To top off my glycogen stores, I ate another banana and about 1 hour out. And then 20 minutes before the race, I had 1 GU Roctane and 2 caffeine pills. I was ready to race. Caffeine is obviously a widely consumed supplement, but it has been shown in many research studies to improve exercise performance. Roughly 3 to 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight have been shown to provide the performance edge that I was looking for. For me, at 180 pounds or 81 kilograms, I knew I would need approximately 240 to 400 milligrams of caffeine at this point. However, I'm quite sensitive to caffeine, so I went for the lower end of this spectrum in the hope of sparing glycogen use in favor of fat use and for a quick central nervous system kick. The water was approximately 82 degrees, which means no wetsuit. Water temperature is an interesting thing when it comes to racing. Most triathletes prefer a colder temperature because wearing a wetsuit adds buoyancy, which reduces the effort needed to swim. But when it is too cold, you can risk blood pooling issues, orthostatic complications, and just a grueling cold swim. When the water temperature rises, athletes wearing wetsuits can actually become too hot and risk all of the problems associated with overheating. This high water temp meant that the wetsuits were not allowed, and my swim time would likely be a bit slower than I had planned. I took a few practice strokes to warm up. Before I knew it, my wave was lining up for the in-water start. I took a few deep breaths. I knew it was game time. My wave started the race. I was aiming for a sub 45-minute time rather than a sub 41-minute time because of my lack of any flotation device. I made a clear effort to keep calm, take a slightly longer route to avoid other swimmers, and consciously think about my stroke and pull throughout the swim. I hit the shore at 36:12. I was off to a great start. Obviously, the swim portion of the race inherently makes it so nothing can be eaten during this time. Because you can't eat while swimming, you rely entirely on foods eaten before the swim to get you from start to finish. The key here was to have no issues with digestion and absorption of whatever I ate before the race. But at this point, I was thrilled to have no issues and was happy with my pre-race eating strategy. The transition went well. I stowed my swim gear, put on my shoes and helmet, and rolled the bike to the starting line and was off. My goal for the bike was 3 hours, but wanted to push myself to a 2:50 if I was having a good day. My plan was to hold back for the first half and then pick up through the last 25 miles. To meet the textbook recommendations of approximately 200 to 300 calories per hour and a carbohydrate to protein ratio of about 4 to 1, I planned to eat 4 GU Roctanes on the ride. They provide about 100 calories each. I was going to have one at mile 2, one at mile 15, one at mile 30, and one at mile 45. I also plan on having 2 times concentrated Aero bottle and about a 0.75 times concentrated down tube bottle of Accelerate while I rode. My plan worked well. I felt strong and I never felt hungry. When my Aero bottle was empty, I filled it up with a down tube bottle and grabbed a cold water bottle at mile 38 from an aid station from a nice volunteer. Of note, I knew it would be a hot day, hot enough that my sweat rate would be high and the potential for extra electrolytes might be needed. Before the race, I put 4 salt pills into my bento box on the bike with the thought of taking them should I feel the need. The only problem was that this would break the textbook code to, quote, never try anything new on race day, end quote, as I had never practiced with salt pills before. With the help of an early morning start and the wind on the ride, the temperature did not feel too bad yet. I also felt great at the time and did not think I needed them. The plan had me feeling fast at this point. The rolling hills were more than I expected for a Florida course, but worked to my advantage to power up them and to power down them. Around mile 45, I began to think of the transition. With 2 miles to go, I was happy to see that my time was going to be better than expected. I rounded the last turn, dismounted, and ended up finishing in 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 3 seconds, with an average pace of 21.13 miles per hour. Awesome. I was excited to start the run. My nutrition plan called for eating 2 GU Roctane gels, one at mile 4 and one at mile 8, and a sip on water at every other aid station throughout the course. I practiced longer runs with this plan with success and was attempting to limit the food intake during the bouncing motion of the run. I clocked in my first 2 miles at a sub 8 minute per mile pace. Running the hills was challenging, and I ran into some mild cramping in my right quad and calf. It was approximately 92 degrees that day, and most of us had started feeling the heat by the start of the run. I decided to eat my first gel at mile 3 instead of mile 4 because I could feel the need for some calories and for some sugar. The first 4 miles fell right into my targeted pace of 8:15 per mile. After that, the pain cave began, and it was a battle to chug along. The cramping continued well into my second and third laps of the 4+ mile course. At mile 6, I ate my second planned GU Roctane gel and knew a few things would change from the plan due to the heat. Lots of sweating, my cramping legs, and my physiological need for some calories. It was hot. I would put ice down my back and dump water on my head at the aid stations. Something had to change, so I decided on my last lap to change some nutritional factors. I ended up adding 3 4-ounce servings of flat Coke, 6 mini pretzels, and a 4-ounce Ironman Powerade, and 1 additional GU Roctane at a few of the running aid stations along the course. This only added 100 to 150 extra calories, but was needed for additional carbohydrates to fuel the intense effort and add some sodium and other electrolytes into the mix to allow for some energy in order to finish the race. By this point, around mile 9, my stride, which was less than perfect, was now dismal. I was shuffling along so that I could never actually toe off completely in order to avoid severe cramping where I would have to stop running entirely. I reached mile 11 at exactly 5 hours. That meant that I was way above pace overall, but off for the run portion. Those last 2.1 miles were a sufferfest. I'm sure the added nutrition was what kept me moving forward though. Even though the last 2 miles took me 10 minutes per mile, I crossed the line for a time of 5 hours, 19 minutes, and 55 seconds. And was just pumped to stop running, get the finisher's medal, and take the post pick in front of the 70.3 Ironman poster. After the race, I went on to drink another water bottle and another Powerade Ironman bottle, and took this immediately. Within the planned 30 minutes, I was eating whole foods because after 5.5 hours of gels and liquids, you really want to chew on something. My meal at the athlete's tent consisted of easy-to-digest carbohydrates and lean proteins. There was no scale around to see how much water weight I lost during the race, but I made sure to hydrate consistently the rest of the afternoon. My training before the race worked out well, and the nutritional approach I took certainly optimized my race weight and my body composition. The approach of exercising more, eating sensibly for my lifestyle, and adding a few sports supplements was spot on. Race day was a different story though. Due to the heat of the day, I probably should have had saltier foods planned, or at least eaten those salt tabs that I left on my bike, and taken in just a few more calories. I may have added one more GU Roctane on the bike too, as it is much easier to eat on the bike than while running. Other than the last 150 to 300 calories, most of my nutrition was dialed in for race day. The textbook plan worked quite well, but what I learned was that everybody has different needs. Maybe it's my sweat rate or my metabolic efficiency, maybe it was the environment that day. But a few more calories and electrolytes were needed on this day. And it should be clear by now that we should trust our evidence-based recommendations, but that we have to be willing to adjust on the fly for individual needs, weather conditions, as well as personal preferences. Many nutritional approaches can work, and do work. Without a doubt, new strategies will continue to be tested by athletes. In the end, optimal performance requires solid exercise training, a rock-solid nutritional approach, and the complete focus and desire to accomplish what you start and finish strong. Thanks for watching.